to Chennai. Captain Kane is back. Games on while we sleep, but we will watch you. Come where Mitchell nor Ross Taylor. We win games without sandpaper. Everybody wants to rule the world.
Live from the Export Beer Garden Studios, you're listening to the BYC, where we wait with bated breath for tonight's big dance. It would be fair to say not many give the Black Caps a snowflake's chance in hell of upsetting the inform Indians. To be fair, they have been magnificent, firing in all departments and cruising through the round robin undefeated. And therein lies the rub. All of the pressure is on the Indians. They are expected to win by their legions of fans, and it's this expectation that could weigh heavy on them. We've upset them before in a similar scenario, and if the Black Caps get off to a good start, you could well imagine the collective Indian buttocks beginning to clench and small cracks starting to open. It's a tantalising prospect, and I, for one, can't wait for 9:30 p.m. tonight, Dylan Cleaver. It's going to be a doozy.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be a very late night, very early morning. I cannot wait. I don't have much nervous anticipation about it, strangely enough.
No.
It feels like this is a real opportunity for New Zealand to play, not carefree. It's too important for that.
Sure.
But to play without that burden of 1.485 billion people on your shoulder.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mentioned this in a previous podcast, actually. This is a scenario that I wanted because you look at India, they've been magnificent in the preliminary rounds there, pull forward, sweeping all before them. But I just feel that an occasion like that doesn't matter anymore. That's all gone. It's one game, one man, one ball. Anything can happen. And look, we've got to be realistic. I don't rate our chances highly, but there is an iota of hope there.
Yeah, it's the thing, you know, knockout. It's a knockout game. The history is interesting and it makes for good podcasts and all that kind of jazz. But at the end of the day, to win the World Cup, as we said, you've got to win 5 pool games and 2 knockout games. And, you know, we're in it. And the other thing is, it doesn't seem completely and utterly ridiculous. This is not sort of Mongolia versus the All Blacks. This is, you know, if New Zealand was going over to India and playing in a 3-match series, we might lose it 2-1. If we were playing a 5-match series, maybe we'd lose 3-2 or 4-1. So, you know, we're absolutely in with a shot. You know,
yes.
India are a beast and they're theoretically unbeatable. But on the day, this New Zealand team, they have done it time and time again. We need a bit of luck. We need India to make some mistakes, and we need a couple of blokes to just have the game of their lives. But it's not completely out of the question. I totally agree.
Yeah, but, you know, because I'm thinking about it, you know, if we do start well, either batting or fielding, that's immediately going to put them under pressure. And I'm going to be really interested to see how the Indians react to that. But drama! Before we even begin regarding the pitch pull forward, those dirty, cheating Indians... my God, I mean, they're already at it.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Just as we've come to air, there's a story out from the Daily Mail, which is, you know, sometimes maybe not the paper of great repute, but in this instance, it's Lawrence Booth. He's a pretty rock-solid perpetrator of cricket journalism. And, he's got hold of a bunch of emails from the ICC guys who are involved in selecting the pitches. Note, not the BCCI guys or the District Association guys or the Indian cricket officials who are meant to not be involved in picking these pitches. And yes, let's just say it's an allegation that the pitch that's being prepared for the semi-final is going to be a little bit older and a little bit dustier and a little bit turnier than maybe what the ICC officials might have picked. And that's not quite how this is meant to go. There's a great quote in there which says, as a result of these actions, one must speculate if this will be the first ever ICC Cricket World Cup final to have a pitch which has been specifically chosen and prepared to the stipulation at the request of the team management and or the hierarchy of the home nation board. This is dirty pool, boys. It better not be true, but I suspect it probably is.
Yeah, the Indian Express actually broke this story yesterday too, and the curator at Wankhede Stadium confirmed to the Indian Express that they had been asked by the BCCI to shave all the grass off to make it slower than it normally would be.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty, boys. Let's talk selections first and foremost, Dylan. KJ, Ish or Timmy?
Yeah, it's a tough. I don't go KJ. He just hasn't played enough cricket.
No.
And, his form at the IPL suggests that he struggles to contain batters when they're on song. I just don't think Ish is in form. I know it's a bit rough. He's been given one go. He's given 4 overs basically and turfed out, but he just hasn't been good enough. So, yeah, it's Tim Southee for me.
Well, just speculating there on what we've been saying about the pitch there. I mean, maybe we do need to load up on the spinners. If it's going to be
we've
Dusty
got
Turner.
Ballers. We've got Glenn Phillips, we've got Ratchin, we've got Mitchell Santner, all three will definitely play. So what you're asking is, do you need another specialist spinner in there?
Sure.
But that specialist spinner hasn't actually been trusted as much as Arachin Ravindra, so
Sure.
it would feel excessive to me.
Pull forward, your thoughts on those three?
Yeah, I wanted to disagree with Dylan, but yeah, I think it just feels Gary steady as she goes. It's Conway, it's Ravindra, Williamson, Mitchell, Phillips, Latham, Chapman, I think, Santner, Southee, Ferguson and Bolt. And I guess the Neesham versus Chapman one, that feels like a bit of a 50-50 for me. Jimmy Neesham, he's either got PTSD or has he got the scars on his back and he's ready to go out there and make something different happen. I'm not sure. Either way, it looks like we're going to need 10 overs out of Phillips, Ravindra and Mitchell. And I suspect those are going to be pretty bloody expensive overs. In terms of Jamieson, I did have a look at that. He actually hasn't played India in a one-dayer in India. He's only played them a couple of times at home, sort of 2 for 30, 2 for 40. So, not a bad record. If there was going to be a Hail Mary, if Lockie Ferguson's not 100, if Tim Southee is just not feeling up to it, then I feel like it'll be the Jamieson. But otherwise, no Hail Marys for this team. It's just not the way that they do things.
I'm very firmly of the opinion, read Jimmy Neesham and Chapman. I go Neesham every day of the week. I think he's a big-time player. I think he likes a big occasion. I don't even think that's a contest, to be honest.
Well, it is.
Well, I know it is. But, I mean, Chapman's... Yes, he has the ability to up the rate and stuff, but I don't know. I just rate Jimmy Neesham as more of an impact player than Chapman, and I'd have him in there instead of Chapman.
Yeah, I can't believe this, but I'm actually following your lead, Hoity J, and
Thanks, mate.
I'm agreeing with you 100%. I don't think they'll go that way, though. I think they will pick Chapman, but unless you're picking Chapman with a view to him bowling some of that filthy left-arm spin as well.
Yes.
So... which they haven't used at all. So they are picking him as purely a lower middle order hitter, and I would go Nish. He's done it before. You might be able to get almost. A couple of times almost now, actually. You might be able to get a couple of filthy right arm over the wicket seam out of him before he starts getting pumped to the boundary, which would make that whole 10 over equation slightly easier because you got 4 to pick from. But no, I agree with Paul. I think they're going to go with Chapman, but I more agree with you that they shouldn't.
Okay, what are the Indians going to do reselection there, Paul Ford? What's your thoughts?
Oh, I think their team is even more settled than New Zealand's. I mean, it's just Sharma, Gill, Kohli, Iyer, the glue of KL Rahul, wicket keeping and kind of holding that middle order together. Sky, Jadeja, Shami, Kuldeep, Bumrah and Siraj. I mean, they're just absolutely settled. They've got 5 bowlers because Jadeja always bowls 10. I mean, they're just in a magnificent position going into this test match. And I think it's hopefully that self-reflection that they are magnificent that may be their Achilles heel.
Yeah, now that, when you sort of name the team out loud like that, I don't give us a shit show. But having said that...
They're very good.
Yeah, they're a very...
Is a shit show less than a snowball's chance in hell? Or roughly the same?
Well, about the same. Okay, Dylan.
Okay.
Dylan Cleaver, you're in the middle there. You win the toss. What are you doing if you're New Zealand?
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting one because no team has chased very well at Wankhede Stadium during this tournament, and yet the conventional wisdom at the beginning of the tournament was that it was a chasing tournament, that the dew would come in and it would get easier to chase late at night. It'd be harder to grip the ball. I don't actually think it matters as much as people are going on and on and on about. Although I suspect in a perfect scenario, New Zealand wins the toss, bats first, gets that score 300, round 300, maybe a little bit into the 300s, and then vice-like pressure on the Indian batters.
Yeah.
I think that's probably how they see the easiest route to victory, but I think it might be a little bit overblown, all the toss talk.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it in terms of us batting first, even 270, 280. I'd settle for that because I think we can exert some pressure there, Paul Ford. What would be your option?
Yeah, look, I as I mentioned before, I think we need some luck, and I'm not going to be boning on about this for 30 minutes, but I do think it would be pretty helpful for Kane Williamson to win the toss and for us to go in. I take that point, Dylan, that the team batting second haven't chased very well. To be fair, the teams that have chased generally have been shithouse or had Glenn Maxwell in it. So those teams are England, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Australia mowing down Afghanistan's 291 with Maxwell getting 201 not out. So, yes, but no, I'd say. I think that scoreboard pressure definitely counts as something on top of the, however many billion Indians there are in the world inside India. Only 33,000 of them, of course, will be in the stadium. It's microscopically small for like a 20 million person city. And the best chance New Zealand has is to get Bolt and Southey and Ferguson hooping it around under lights as we hit I think it's the gloaming, Dylan. Is this the right time to be talking about the gloaming, bowling under lights?
Yeah, and what
a great term.
What New Zealand did badly in 2015. They got the conditions completely wrong, and their hitters were coming out to bat in Melbourne under the gloaming, and it started swinging around. So this could be a World Cup semi-final decided by an archaic Scottish word, which would be just brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yes. No, the prospect of us batting first, that Indian bowling lineup has just been in sensational form, so it will be an epic challenge. All right, let's get to the keys to victory here, fellas, and I believe you're going to kick us off, Paul Ford.
Oh, am I? Okay. Yeah, well, putting the toss to one side then, I think wickets with the new ball are pretty bloody important. Maybe we'll do a couple each. I think I had a quick look. Wankhede during the World Cup, the scores of the team batting second at the end of the power play: 67 for 4, 35 for 3, 14 for 6, and 52 for 4. So, really, really important to rip into those first 10 overs. The curator there said that batsmen should be very cautious in the first 10 overs. There's something to do with the gloaming, but also to do with the wind and all of that kind of jazz, the sea breeze. Look, India score a shitload of runs and they don't lose many wickets in the first 10 overs, apart from a couple of times when they got themselves into strife, which was against England when they were 35 for 2 and against Australia when they were 27 for 3. New Zealand, as Dylan has talked about, we've been a bit crap. I mean, our stats sort of belie our lack of success. 13 wickets in the power play across the game sounds all right, but 5 of them were in that match, that most recent match where we pummeled Sri Lanka into oblivion, so we shouldn't blind ourselves on that. India got to 63 for none in the pool game, so that's the first one for me. I think wickets with the new ball, massively important.
Dylan?
Yeah, I think Mitchell Santner, very broadly. I don't think he's because of the emergence of Rachin Ravindra at this tournament, Santner's brilliance has kind of been underplayed, but I think he's been fantastic. But in this particular match, I think he's got a bit of a high wire act. As Paul mentioned, I think wickets with a new ball are critical. If for some reason they don't materialise, then I think Santner has to bowl more attackingly. He has to bowl as a wicket-taking option. If, however, they do get wickets, he needs to be that kind of Jadeja that just screw the scoring down for 10 overs, which he's very good at. But at this World Cup, he has been more attacking. In this game, I think it's a real high wire act for him. Yeah.
I think another key is one of the top 3 going deep, batting deep. And that's the case for every one-dayer. You saw a really interesting example of that, actually. I think it was Australia v Bangladesh. And the Bangladeshis who batted first got a number of starts, but they lost wickets regularly. And at the end of that innings, they completely lost momentum. So you need an informed player, and this is the perfect opportunity. Arise, Sir Kane. But we need we need a 130, 140, 150 from him and him batting, or, or Conway or Ratchin. One of the three needs to go deep into the innings.
Yeah. Allied to that, I'd say key point number 4, they've got to pick on India's potential weak links in that bowling attack. Now, there's not many. It's a magnificent attack. And I mean, we could do a whole podcast on how good this Indian team is. And I'd put it right up there with that West Indies ODI team of the late 70s, early 80s, and that Australian one-day team that merged seamlessly between the Steve Waugh and the Ricky Ponting era. They're that good, but I think you might need to target Mohammad Siraj and possibly Kuldeep Yadav, who takes wickets but can go for a few. So I'd be looking at those 20 overs as a potential for the bulk of your total.
I'm putting an asterisk on that that piece of acclaim from you, because of course they haven't won anything yet, Dylan.
No,
so,
they need.
Let's not.
They need validation.
I haven't put this on the list, but there's definitely this thing where they are talking about what they need to do on November the 19th, which is bloody great, I think, in terms of the semi-final, just slightly getting ahead of themselves and just not quite being as pumped up for New Zealand as what they could be. Jace, I was just going to say, on your top 4, just looking at the batting averages, it's not that different. India look real good, I know, but India's top 4 averages in the tournament, 294, New Zealand's top 4, 268. So you only need a little bit of luck for that 25 runs to be the difference there, right? Mm-hmm. My other one that I was going to mention was just our catching. Now, I think our ground fielding generally has been good, stopping runs and all of that sort of stuff, but our catch efficiency, as per the photo that I took of the TV the other night, we are second only to Sri Lanka. We're down with Afghanistan and Australia in terms of our catch efficiency, 16 catches out of 40 when I took this photo. India, 6 out of 25.
That bad?
Yeah, it's been shit out.
Wow.
16 drops out of 40.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But still poor. And the other part of this is India in the pool game. We shouldn't forget that we were competitive, but Jadeja put down a sitter off Ravindra when he was on 12. He got 75. Rahul put down Mitchell off Jadeja. Bumrah dropped Mitchell when he was on 60-odd. He went on to get 100. So India will not – we don't want to give the chances as well. So there's that. And then when we were just talking about the catch efficiencies and so on, my mind just had to go back to Marlon Samuels. We just have to remember that World Cup semi-final at Wellington here in the blazing sun where Martin Guptill was dropped 3 balls into the first over by Marlon Samuels, the psycho, and then got 237 not out of 163 balls. Very, very expensive.
Yes, and I think the final key, fellas, and something that I think we've already touched on anyway, all the pressure is on India. There's no question about it. The expectation, I imagine, on New Zealand is very low. And so they need to go out there and just play free and easy and just enjoy the occasion. And as I say, we field first, a couple of stunning catch, a run out. All of a sudden, the pressure starts going on. You know what I mean? And I honestly believe anything could happen in that scenario. I'm fully anticipating India going to choke. Something's going to happen and they're going to go, oh, no, here we go. In the back of their minds, of course, will be the last time we beat them in the semi-final, where they were fully expected to cruise to victory. And those sort of memories will just start, and because the guys have no I think, they'll be able to play with a little more freedom and with a little more relaxation. So there's the 6 keys we believe on the BYC to a New Zealand victory.
We're going to put a bet on one of those keys to victory.
Yes.
The TAB good punt this week is from the mind of G Lane. Keep G Lane off the plane, hashtag. He has put $100 at $8 for Lord Devon of Conway and King Kane Williamson to each score a 50 in the semi-final. That's paying $8.
Waiting. Good stuff, mate. Let's look at the other semi-final. South Africa, Australia. Your thoughts and expectations of that match, Dylan Cleaver?
Yeah, just a massive anticipation. I'm really surprised that India aren't playing at Eden Gardens, which is like an 80,000-seat stadium for the semi-final. It will be... I can't pick it. Honestly, I can't. I have a funny feeling Australia are going to do it because it's what Australia do.
Yeah.
But I think South Africa is a slightly more rounded team, maybe even slightly more dynamic in that middle order with your Heinrich Klaassens and your Aiden Markrams, David Millers, whereas Australia are relying very heavily at the moment on Maxi, who, is he fit? I mean, I'm sure he's going to play, but is he fully fit?
God, what I mean, he was in a world of pain in that innings, wasn't he? So it'll be interesting to see how he recovers. What's your gut telling you, Paul?
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess when I look at this game, I really want South Africa to win because, like New Zealand, they've never won the World Cup before, right? In fact, they've never even played the final. So it feels like for India and Australia, it's just sort of matter of course. It's all a bit of a blasé. Oh, yeah, we won another World Cup. For New Zealand and South Africa, the potential to get into the final and to take home their first ever World Cup is just, it just feels like it's just a hell of a lot more important, I guess. Look, I think this is what's going to happen. I think it's going to piss down with rain. The storms are going to come in across the Bay of Bengal. It's going to be completely rained out. And South Africa are going to go through, ironically, on a rain delay because they are the highest qualifier, which would be deeply ironic given what happened to them in the rain at Eden Park in 2015 when the maths got problematic. I think if they do play, then I think there's an interesting decision to make around Bavuma. And Gedi also looked like he was going to be injured. I think it's going to be a spinning track there too. So, I think that South Africa have the edge on Australia on that front.
Australia what makes you say that? Sampa's been the top wicket taker, hasn't he, this tournament? I'm intrigued by your thinking here.
Yep. I like Maharaj. I like Shamsi. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like South Africa have got something to give there. And then it comes down to Jansen versus Stark. Stark's been in shit form, and Jansen looked really, really nervous in the pool game. So who's going to pull through on that one? Not sure. And then Australia, big decision to make, right? If it's going to be rain affected, you want Marcus Stoinis in your team, I think. And then so if you put Stoinis in, you've got to drop Labuschagne or Smith. A bit of a tricky one there. I loved Brad Haddon last night when he was asked, do you think that the history of South Africa in semi-finals will come into it? He said, if I was out there, I'd certainly be talking about it. You just know that they will be bringing it up, the Aussies.
So are you doing some Jim Hickey work here? Like, have you knowledge that there is a storm off the Bay of Bengal, or are you hoping? No,
there absolutely is. The massive is predicted to be rain shortened at the very least, and the reserve day, which is Friday night New Zealand time, is theoretically even worse than the match day. So, genuinely, I think that it's a threat that this game will be rain shortened and a bit more of a lottery than it might otherwise be. Which I guess, just thinking that through, if you're South Africa and your method is bat first, score a million, that's much harder in a rain affected game where there's a lot more unknowns than you're just going to blaze away 50 over, set a platform with Rassie van der Dussen, and then blaze away with all those guys that Dylan mentioned earlier.
My gut instinct tells me Australia. They like the big occasion. They're coming right. I think it's a pretty even contest, actually. South Africa obviously have been in really good form in this tournament, and they've got weapons all down that batting lineup. Bowling unit's pretty attacking as well. So it's going to be a fascinating contest. But I would love the Australians to be knocked out because of rain. That would really make me happy. Hey,
it's an interesting thing, eh? South Africa 2015, the only guys that have really got PTSD from actually playing in the Harry Jav game are Quinton de Kock, and there's a bit of speculation about him batting, scoring 100, and then not taking the field in the second inning. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. And David Miller. And then from Australia's point of view, it's kind of the reverse of PTSD. It's like, we just turn up. We're really good at winning things. Lots of their guys won the World Cup in 2015 and were there in 2021 for that T20 World Cup as well. So, yeah, history is potentially a factor.
Great stuff, fellas. Hey, but then drama. The Henry Nicholls controversy. And we got some correspondence on that, I believe, Dylan.
Yeah, this is good correspondence, actually, because it sums up a lot of my thinking on it. It marries up to something I wrote in The Bounce the other day. But Dean writes, the role and importance of the media is perfectly summed up in the Nicholls incident. Because it has been covered in so little detail and with no urgency, NZC were under no pressure to A, take it seriously, or B, have Nicholls or them properly explain what was going on. 20 years ago, if a stalwart of the test team was accused of ball tampering, and this was by both the umpires and Auckland, it would have been front page lead item news. 10 years ago, it would have been big. Now it gets a cursory glance and who cares? The sandpaper fiasco got its own book, it got documentaries, it got year-long bans, etc. And while I'm not saying Nicholls is 100% guilty, it just seems outrageous that something that looks as suspect as this gets a buried article or two on Stuff, then game over. Players' actions were unlikely to alter the condition of the ball, which was the explanation the independent panel gave when letting him off, is ridiculous. Then tell us why he did it. Is he naive or not good at it or what? We should have heard from Nicholls on this. He went on to say a couple of other things that probably best left off here for legal reasons, but we should have heard from Nicholls on this, he concludes with. And just for context, if you've been living under a rock, actually you don't need to have been living under a rock because it got so little coverage. He was seen on camera in the game between Canterbury and Auckland, rubbing the ball vigorously first on his sleeve and then appearing to, or allegedly, whatever legal word you want to use, scrape the ball on the bottom of the helmet. For what reason, we do not know yet. And I actually sympathise with Dean there. I think it's...
fair points.
It's just really weird how little attention it's got.
Yeah.
I did see that when he was appointed, the CEO of Canterbury Cricket, Jez Kerwin, said, I'm going to be a visible person. I'm not going to hide behind a desk and a closed door. It's not how I work. But I didn't see any quotes from him.
No, he said no comment.
Yeah.
He was approached for comment and said no comment.
So did the head of cricket operations, Charlie Brewer at NZC, Ian Laxton at Auckland Cricket, probably understandable. The Otago Daily Times said that the Auckland players had been aware that Nicholls may have been using the helmet to scuff the ball up in order to help it reverse swing and had filmed it themselves from the sideline, which is...
interesting.
Yeah, interesting as well.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, the greatest pub talkover of all time.
Oh, this is so good.
It's outstanding.
So, Gareth Morgan, the... skipper of the Mudgeeriba Narangan Districts Cricket Club against Surfers Paradise in the Gold Coast Premier League Division 3, took 6 wickets in 6 balls. So Surfers were 4 for 174, needing 5 to win at Carrara, the Carrara Community Centre, actually, venue. And Morgan, who was the captain, as I mentioned, said that he toyed with the idea of giving one of the young lads in the team the ball, but thought, I'll bowl so that they can hit the winning runs off me rather than deigning to have a young bloke. So an altruistic move that proved very, very, very effective. The first ball was the opener, Jake Garland, who was caught at mid-wicket, trying to slog it out of the ground, apparently. The best thing about this, DC, is that Jake Garland is a reporter for the Gold Coast Bulletin. For
the Bully.
And he ended up writing about the afternoon under this headline, I was first to go in a 6-ball epic. Then wicket, so that was a hat trick, and then catch at point, and then bowled. Poor old Nicholas Bowmeter stranded at the other end in disbelief. I couldn't believe it, Morgan said. Absolute pandemonium. Bit of speculation about whether there might have been an Angela Matthews situation. And then the bit that I loved the most was on the team's or the club's website. Gareth Morgan had to share the weekend winners top billing with his 6 for 6 was sort of alongside people that had won the meat tray in the raffle. I thought was so good.
It got picked up everywhere as well. The story got picked up in the BBC, which, Guardian, all the CNN, I think it was even picked up in, and they
good God, CNN,
little about cricket. So it was amazing.
Great
Absolutely
stuff.
Incredible.
Hey, it's time.
And trumps a record from Neil Wagner, who got 5 and 5 for Otago, 10 years ago or so. So Morgan is better than a Wagner.
Great story. Right now it's time for Paul Ford's Cricket Violence Corner.
Paul Ford's Cricket Violence Corner.
Yeah, some violence today, and then a little bit of heartwarmer. A 16-year-old schoolboy suffered head trauma after he was struck on the back of the head with a cricket bat by another student at the Golden Grove School in Guyana. The injured boy was a 5th former and is now hospitalised in the Georgetown Public Hospital. Jamal was injured in a confrontation at the school after firecrackers were thrown around. The perpetrator launched the full-blooded pull shot from behind the victim. His aunt said Jamal is not a troublemaker. He doesn't like to miss school. He always neat and tidy. He's in a stable but critical condition as the police and Ministry of Education investigate the incident. We need justice, the aunt stated. She did not know the type of bat that was used. So there's the violence. And I just wanted to mention this. Afghanistan, I mean, if you didn't love Gurbaz's ball before, you're going to love it after this. Afghani youngster Ramanullah Gurbaz has done something amazing. He's been seen handing out free cash to homeless people sleeping on the streets of Ahmedabad at 3 o'clock in the morning, just wandering along, just leaving money along the blankets just ahead of Diwali this week. What an absolute legend. He played a couple of seasons for Gujarat and Kolkata, where he made about 250, 300,000 New Zealand dollars, and there he is, just giving some of that away, captured on social media just before the Afghani team were due to fly home. So good on you, get Gurbaz's ball. I love it even more.
I'm glad you ended on that one, because shit, that first one was grim, wasn't it?
Yes, I reckon. Waiting.
Toppa Correspondence of the Week, brought to you by Leader NZ's Lasagna Toppa.
Hey, we've got a bit of correspondence from Fish and Chips from Whitby. And he writes, a solid effort all round for us to scrap and scrape into the semis, with the longer format of matches proving to be quite enthralling. One of the highlights of the tournament for mine has been the spunky showings from the lesser nations, Afghanistan being the standout. The Netherlands too had some performances to cheer, and Bangladesh, although no stranger to the big stage, had some excellent moments too. The Kiwis now have it all to do in their match on Wednesday. The precedents there, of course, were tipping up India in the semi, but one really feels that they're up against on this occasion, given all the salad vectors in India's favour. That having been said, one never does know in sport, does one? As for the Safa brawl on Thursday, South Africa are my pick, but again on the day. The important thing regarding the whole tournament, in my opinion, is that it's been a great showcase for the sport, played in good spirit, featuring some outstanding cricket and superbly supported by the cricket-crazy Indian public. Fingers crossed that the mighty Black Caps can pull off a blinder on Wednesday and make this final the charm. Chocks away for tonight, Blaney.
Thanks, Joe.
So good. I was going to say, this tournament, it felt like it's been really long with cricket on every night. And then when the cricket wasn't on Monday and Tuesday this week, I had withdrawal symptoms. I really missed it. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Hey, now it's to the punters' correspondence. We love getting your correspondence, but we want just to put it out there to people. Could you restrict it to 150 words or less? Because we're getting some massive screeds coming in, and we want to get through all of them, don't we, fellas?
Yep.
So if you can just 150 or less, that would be much appreciated. What do we want to do today, boys? What do we want to run with?
These ones are actually pretty short, so I think I'll race through Richard's, and then either yourself or Paul can do David O'Connell, who's a regular correspondent, but not the regular correspondent. So Richard Swan writes, in response to us talking about whether this was the worst defence of a World Cup of all time and from England, and he said, hi, you were wondering about a terrible defence of the World Cup crown? The answer is Australia in 1992, because of course Australia won when it was still the last tournament in whites in 1987 on the subcontinent. I also think Sri Lanka in 1999, having won in 96, was pretty bad, as they did not make the semis. But off the top of my head, I think there was some sort of punishing Super 6 qualifying back in 99. Of course, what makes their performance even worse is they were the co-hosts. And of course, they were Australia in 92. They were the co-hosts with New Zealand, and New Zealand losing to Pakistan in the final pool match knocked Australia out of their own tournament. And of course, Pakistan would haunt New Zealand in the semi-final to follow.
It's amazing some of the chat that is out there. I sort of alluded to it before. India looked to go for 11 in a row when they actually haven't got to the 10th game, which is tonight. But the record is ridiculous in World Cups. Australia between 1999 and 2011, 34 matches in a row. So India can dream all they like, even if they win the World Cup. Here in this tournament, they'll only equal their record under MS Dhoni. So, yeah, there we go.
Good stuff. A bit of correspondence too, Paul, from David O.
David, all looking forward to the big semi-final matchup. I came across an article on the BBC from former England seamer Stephen Finn on the changes needed to revitalise the tournament. Some interesting food for thought. I always hark back to my favourite World Cup of 1992. Nothing wrong with playing everyone once, and the heroism of Hogan's young guns only to fall at the semi-final hurdle. I'd keep that format, 9 teams or even 8. England might just scrape in to qualify. Then an NRL-style top 4 semi-finals, 3rd versus 4th straight knockout, 1v2, have an extra life, etc. Something to play for in the preliminary round. On Finn's article, I seem to remember bonus points being used in one of the Australian World Series Cup tournaments, and it still resulted in some go-slows to ensure bonus points didn't come into play, so I'm not a big fan of them in ODI cricket. After the amazing final of 2019, apparently saving ODI cricket, it now looks like England's abject failure in 2023 is leading pundits here in the UK to question the 50-over game's very existence. Call me cynical, but methinks Finn doth protest too much. Come on, the Black Caps, he says. Thanks.
Yeah,
David.
great stuff. Great stuff.
The next World Cup format apparently is 2 pools of 7, so 14 teams, and six matches each. So not everyone will play everyone. So I don't know if that's better or worse yet.
Except I'm pretty sure that is an edict that Pakistan and India have to be in the same pool. So they're guaranteed to meet at the World Cup.
Right. Interesting.
Perfect.
Well, there you go. That brings us to the end of this podcast. What's going on in the bounce there, Dylan Cleaver?
Jeepers, the bounce is looking forward to a sleep in.
Yeah, I bet.
Soon. So,
Sure.
But yeah,
Not tomorrow.
It's not tomorrow, no, but it's tracking along nicely. Dylan Cleaver, or one word, .substack.com. Sign up. It's free. You won't regret it.
Great stuff, mate. And keep that correspondence coming. And finally, fellas, final predictions tonight. Dylan Cleaver.
New Zealand by 3 runs.
Pull forward.
Super over. Mark Chapman hits a 6 to win the game.
Well, that's not going to happen because they're going to go for niche instead. But anyway, my prediction, New Zealand by 3 wickets.
Oh.
Chasing it down.
Yeah,
Chasing
man.
it down.
Under lights.
Yeah, man,
What,
by
the
3
old
wickets.
Who's not out? Who's not out, Jace, in that scenario?
I'd probably go Neesham. He's going to be the one that blazes us over the line. And
You're
of
going to
course,
be brokenhearted if Neesham's not in there. God, I hope he is for your sake.
don't forget tomorrow there's going to be a special edition of the BYC, and I believe you, Paul, and Dylan Cleaver will be dissecting the drama of tonight's match. Great stuff.
Yeah, we'll be full of a lot of sorrow for India. We'll be full of deep, deep empathy, that's for sure.
Will be
Good stuff.
magnanimous, I think is the word.
Yes, indeed. Go the mighty Black Caps. See you later.